I'm Deanna Brown and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making Philly chicken Florentine. So what I've got here is about 4 chicken breasts, which is about 1.5 pounds of chicken, boneless, skinless. I've cubed it, cut up a medium-sized onion and a clove of garlic and browned them together in the pan, and now I'm just setting them aside. So now what I'm going to do, I've got a 250 gram tub of Philly light cream cheese. And I'm going to turn back on my heat to about medium. I'm going to add the whole tub of cream cheese. Now the cream cheese is going to give the sauce for this casserole such a rich, creamy flavor. Really is excellent. Now I'm using the light Philly cream cheese, but if you wanted to try the chive or the garden vegetable, anything would really work depending on your taste. So I'm just going to let that start to melt down in my pan. And then what I'm going to do is, as this is melting, I'm going to add a cup of chicken stock right in there. Now don't worry, it's going to look kind of chunky and lumpy at first, but as it melts down, it'll definitely incorporate. I'll just give it a little more heat. So now I'm going to get this all melted down together. And while that's melting, I'm going to add, I have 1 clove of garlic and a teaspoon of fresh chopped dill. So I'm going to put those both in there and get them stirred in. Now again, don't worry that this will incorporate as it cooks. So I'm going to let this cook down, and I'm going to come back to you as soon as we get this all melted in. Okay, we're back. So this is almost all incorporated. I've got a few little lumps, but those will mix in as you cook. Now the great thing about this recipe is it makes a great make-ahead recipe because it freezes really well, so you can just take it out of the freezer at night, put it right in the oven, and have ready-made dinner. Also a great way to get your kids to eat vegetables if they're not big vegetable fans. I've got about 1/2 cup of chopped frozen spinach here that I have just thawed off and drained a little bit with a paper towel to get the excess water out. So I'm going to put that right in. Now the nice thing about this recipe is, again, it is very versatile. So if you're not such a big spinach fan, you can put more or less depending on your taste. I find 1/2 cup is nice because it gives a little bit of texture and a nice flavor, but it's not too overpowering. So we're just going to turn that down to medium, mix that in a bit, and let it just incorporate. Okay, now we've got our spinach all mixed in. And what I've got here is I've got 2 medium tomatoes that I've diced up, fresh tomatoes. Now you want to make sure that everything is pretty much incorporated here before you add the tomatoes, because you don't want them to break down too much and turn into mush. You still want them to have a little bit of substance in your casserole. So I'm just going to add those right in. Give them a little stir. And at this point I'm going to turn off the heat. And I'm going to take my chicken that I browned earlier. I'm going to pour that right back in with the onions and garlic. And as I was browning that, I just seasoned it with a little bit of salt and pepper. So we'll give that a good mix. Okay, now what we're going to do is going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Not too much, because the Philly does add quite a bit of flavor, and you don't want to oversalt. It's always easier for people to salt at the table rather than oversalting to begin with, because you can't take it away. Okay, so now we've got that all mixed in, and you want to look and take a look at what your sauce is like. If it's pretty thin and soupy, I've got here 1 teaspoon of cornstarch with 1 teaspoon of water. I'm going to turn my heat back on. I'm going to add that in and just bring it up to a boil. Now, depending on the size of your chicken breasts and how juicy your tomato is, how much leftover water was in your spinach, it's all going to depend on how thick your sauce comes out. Some people like it a little thinner. I like mine nice and thick. So I'll just bring that back up to a boil just to thicken it up. Okay, now I've got a 9 by 13 baking dish here. I've also got 2 cups of cheese. Now this is 2/3 mozzarella, 1/3 Swiss cheese, totaling 2 cups. So you can use any kind of cheese you want. I prefer to stay with something milder. That way it's not overpowering the flavor of the Philly cream cheese and the spinach and the tomatoes that are in your casserole. But you can mix it up, try different things, see how it works. Okay, we've got this thickened up a little. So I'm going to take this and pour it all into my casserole. Okay. Then I'm going to take the cheese and pour all the cheese right in there. We'll give it a good mix to get it incorporated, and I'll run the cheese right throughout. Now the cheese will help thicken up the sauce too as it bakes and it melts in there. So don't worry if it still looks a little bit runny. Oops. Okay, so we've got our cheese all mixed in. It's starting to get all melty already. I can see it. Smells wonderful. Like I said, that Philly cream cheese really gives it a nice, rich, creamy flavor. Okay, now what I've got is some frozen phyllo dough that I've just thawed out, and I like to cut it into little bits and just kind of spread it across the top randomly. Now if you like to, you can use it in sheets and put your sheets across and just butter them as you go, but I like it nice and random. I'm more of a freestyle kind of person. Okay. Alright, so I've got my phyllo dough spread across the top there. It doesn't have to cover the whole thing. Again, personal taste. If you want it nice and neat covering the whole thing, go right ahead. I've got just a little bit of melted butter here, and I'm just going to touch the tops of where I put the phyllo dough. Okay. Now all we have to do is set it in the oven at 375 degrees for about 20 minutes. You just want it to get all bubbly and the phyllo to turn golden brown. Okay, so it's been in the oven for 20 minutes now. So we're just going to get it out here. Turn this off first. Go ahead and take it out. Oh, looks great. You can see it's nice and golden brown on top. Alright. Now I usually let it sit for 4 to 5 minutes just to let it set a little bit, make it a little bit easier to handle. And you don't want to serve it, especially if you're serving it to kids, when it's too hot. But let's just see if we can't get a nice piece out here. First piece is always the hardest to get out nicely. Let's see what we can do. Alright, smells fantastic. So there you have it. That is your Philly chicken Florentine casserole. Thanks for watching.